All right, everybody, what are we talking about today? That's going to be another compensator video. So I live in a banned state, so I get to try these very oddball type compensators. So my last one we talked about was the Vantage Point, which was mounted to the X300. Now we're going to be talking about the Strike Industries Mass Driver. So this thing is very unique and different than pretty much any other of the compensators out there because it is mounted via the guide rod, right? And I'll see yeah, see, you can see it there. So they put a spring in the front here so that when you shoot, this thing is also flying forward from the gas pressures in addition to releasing the gas pressures out here. So does that help? I don't know, right? So what I did was, this is a Glock 17 with the comp, so this makes it about the length of a Glock 17L. So yes, it's kind of ridiculous. We'll call it a glong, right? So what did I do? I compared it versus my 34. That seemed to be a good option, right? Because most people would say, oh, well, just because of that extra mass, you're getting less muzzle flip. And it doesn't have anything to do with the ports or the mass driver moving forward or anything like that. So I shot these side by side, back to back, whatever you want to call it. You be the judge, right? I don't want to tell you what I feel at this point. So I'm going to roll in the footage of shooting at the range, and we'll see. I shot a couple hundred rounds through each of these, and I just went back and forth, back and forth. So go and check that video out, and then we'll get back to it and talk at the end. All right, y'all, so you watched the footage. What did you think? What did you see? Did you see this muzzle flipping up a little bit less than the Glock 34? I know when I was there, I felt it, right? And this is a little bit heavy, so obviously the weight could be a factor in there as well. But if you watch the video, you can see the flames coming out the side. So obviously it must be pushing some of those gases out of these ports, right? So when compared to the 34, which these are not exactly the same length, right? Obviously, the compensator comes in a little bit longer. This is more like a 17L, as we discussed in the beginning video, right? But compared one to the other, I'd say this probably, depending on the rounds, is 20 to 25% less muzzle flip, at least judging, who knows? That's what it feels like to me. It definitely has a felt difference between the two. So then that would mean that probably versus a regular 17, 25 to 30% recoil reduction, right? And as we talked about at the beginning of the video, it's mounted via the guide rod, which is kind of cool. That's like the old school Beretta SGS compensator, made most famous by probably the Professional or Leon the Professional, right? Those were also guide rod mounted compensators. So it's not a new concept, but the mass driver is a new concept, which is kind of cool. And now for the reliability. So reliability for this was 100%. I shot probably 400 plus rounds out of it. I shot a lot of Magtech steel case 115 grain, and it worked perfectly fine. And the crazy part is that the spring that came with this, I bought it used. The spring that came with it was super light. So what was going on was this spring was overpowering the recoil assembly spring, so it was making it go out of battery very easily. I didn't like that, but I didn't have any extra power springs for the Glock 17 sitting around. But I did have a spring from my old Glock 20 that was an aftermarket spring sitting on a steel guide rod for I don't even know how many years now. So pulled that spring off, put it in here. So I don't know if it's the same power as a normal Glock 17 or whatever, but it worked perfectly fine with no issues on that ammo. And then I had a Magtech brass case, 115 grain. It worked fine for that, no problems at all. Then I shot some CCI Spear, 124 grain plus P. Same thing, no issues whatsoever. And I brought out a bunch of my own reloads, which also worked perfectly fine. I reload them a little hot, kind of towards the maximum. So I use typically Barry's bullets because that's what's most widely available locally. And I load those 115 grain full metal jacket with 5.5 grains of unique powder. Most commonly, I do use some other powders, but when I use unique, I know 5.5 because I use that for 9mm and 45. But overall, sorry this video is going a little bit long. For those of you like myself in a band state where you cannot have a threaded barrel, this is a great option. Of course, people will make fun of you, and it's funny because I've had a few Strike Industries things and I haven't had any issues with them, but other people say they're junk, garbage, whatever. They'll make fun of you, but I promise you, if they would have charged $400 for this compressor, or for compensator, sorry, people would probably be lining up to buy them, even though it looks a little bit strange. You know, it doesn't also fit in holster, so that's kind of a crappy point. It'll fit in a holster, but it overhangs a little bit right here, so sometimes it'll grab, and then it'll do that as you're pulling it out of the holster, which is super annoying, right? Could I fix my holster to not do that? Sure. Am I going to? Probably not. Am I going to keep this on there? I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to take it out to an outdoor range day and put a shit ton of ammo through it, and we'll see where it goes. But overall, initial review is going to be a positive for this one. It worked perfectly. Every single time went bang. It did seem like maybe this was a little bit more inaccurate than the 34. I was having some flyers even at like 15 yards, and this reticle was like perfect size for the target, and the dot was in the center, and it would just be like boom, boom, boom right in the center, and then boop, one flyer. Sure, it could be me, very possible, but I don't think so. Not at 10 to 15 yards when I was doing some comparisons with these. Oh yeah, I guess we should talk about the groups a little bit before I let you roll. So the groups shooting that you saw me shoot in the video section before this wound up being about a fist-sized group, and that was at 10 yards when I was shooting this one and the 34 back-to-back. So both are very accurate for the most part. You're going to be hitting your targets if you want to. Once, obviously, you get out a little further like this at 25 yards, it seemed a bit sporadic. So keep that in mind, but your results may vary. That's just my results for my first range day with this comp. Anyways, thank you for watching. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.